I have the pleasure today of interviewing my neighbor, Dave Hansen. Dave lives on 1 North, and he moved there about 3 years ago. And Dave is a native Oklahoman, not only born in Oklahoma, he was born in Oklahoma City, and he was born and raised in the same house in Oklahoma City. So he is really very stable. However, after college, he moved all over the place. And so he has been in many states, I don't even know how many, and we're going to get into all of that. But first, Dave, did you have siblings?
Yeah, I had 2 brothers and a sister, all of them quite a bit older than I am. I really didn't remember my brothers until I was about 12 years old when they came back from World War II. One of the neat things that happened then, my brother Dick was in the Air Force and had a jacket with bombs on the back of it showing how many missions he went. I wore that to grade school, and everybody thought I was very cool.
Right. And did you just go to school all through, did you have friends, same friends all through school?
Pretty much. I started at Edgemere Grade School, and I had 2 friends that lived on the same block, Jim Fentress and Ralph Thompson, who a lot of people here probably know. Jim told me that he installed the sound equipment in Epworth when it was first built.
Uh-huh.
And
so then you went away to OU?
I went away to OU, had a good time, didn't do very well in school, and enlisted in the Army at that point. Was in the Army for 2 years, mostly stationed in Tokyo, Japan, as a radar technician.
So was there a language barrier, or you just were on base?
Well, I was on a couple of bases around Tokyo, so at that point, I learned just pidgin Japanese and didn't do very well with that.
So then you came back, and did you finish school then?
Mm-hmm. I went back to OU, made good grades finally, graduated, and then went on to an international trade graduate school called Thunderbird.
And where did you meet Patty?
Well, at OU, my roommate had a date with my future wife, and I liked her better than he did. So over Christmas vacation that year, we started dating and got married about a year later.
Well, after you got married, what did you do for your career?
Well, I worked for a large private company called Cargill Incorporated, and they moved me around about 12 different places, but mostly in Minneapolis and Portland, Oregon.
Well, of all the places they moved you, where did you like it the best?
Well, I think Portland at the time was the best place in my career that I lived in.
So for, I mean, what, 30 years? For a long time?
I worked for them for 35 years.
All right, so you are stable, even though you moved all over the country. Where all did that take you? What are some of the other states that you lived in?
Well, first I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, then Minneapolis, then St. Louis, then Natchez, Mississippi, then Portland, Oregon. I transferred to Japan for a couple of years, came back to Portland, moved to Champaign, Illinois. From there I moved back to Minneapolis for a long time, and finally moved to Memphis, Tennessee, where I retired.
Wow. Well, what are some of your hobbies or activities that you've enjoyed?
Well, earlier I was involved in sports cars and sports car racing. I had a couple of cars that I played with and made into semi-racers, but I gave that up a long time ago.
No. Well, you also, didn't you do stuff at the church, and you did some AARP driving instruction.
The AARP thing I started in Memphis, and I did that for about 10 years, doing driver safety classes. When I moved to Oklahoma, well, about that point, my wife said, "Dave, I've been following you for 40 years, it's about time that you followed me. Let's move back to Oklahoma City.
Oh, that's
So
it.
we did. And I took the ARP driving safety classes with me and started doing that. I think I did about 80 classes in Oklahoma City, and I figure about 12 were at Epworth.
Well, tell us about your children.
Well, I've got 3 children, a daughter that lives in Alexandria, Virginia. She has 2 kids. She's an international trade expert on trade policies. I've got a son in Seattle, Washington, who's an immunologist, works for the Department of Fisheries. He's been working on a lot of different projects. One, a COVID test kit, but that hasn't developed. I've got a daughter that lives in Houston now, although most of her life she lived in France, but she's back here, I think, permanently with her family.
Cool. What about your decision? What about your decision to move to Epworth? What made that for you?
Well, I was pretty familiar with Epworth from doing the driver safety courses here and other places. I think I went to 3 other retirement centers in addition to Epworth, and after I made a decision that I needed to get a permanent place to live the rest of my life, it was an easy decision to move to Epworth because I was familiar with it.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's been great. Thank you for sharing, Dave. You know, we've been neighbors for 3 years, and I learned an awful lot about you today, and it was really great. Thanks.